Starting off with HVEC support HVEC, also known as H.265, the successor to H.264 video. They're 40% smaller, which is great for high-def videos in 4K. We also now support FLAC in macOS and in Quick Look, so it's really handy because not only can you open them in QuickTime, but you can open them in Quick Look as well. Any professional audiophiles out there are going to love native support for this built-in, but unfortunately it is not natively supported in iTunes, but maybe next year. We also have the new Metal 2, which is Apple's graphics framework that lets them tap right into the GPU. This year it has better battery life, helps VR support, and much smoother graphics in things like Expose or in games. Speaking of VR, Apple now will officially support VR, which things like the HTC Vive for not only using it, but also development as well. We also have support for external GPUs over Thunderbolt 3, though they only work currently for external displays. Moving over to Safari, it has much better power efficiency and a lot more speed than it has in the past, which it's always been quite snappy. We also have a new auto reader mode, which means anytime you visit a site that has something that can be viewed in Reader, it'll automatically open in that. Of course, that is completely optional, and that can be turned on and off based on the site that you're visiting. In fact, it is not just auto reader mode that you can turn on and off per site. If you go up to the top and go to Safari and then slide down a couple, you have settings for this website, and you can turn on and off certain things specifically for this site, which is really cool and granular. You can turn off auto reader mode, enable or disable any content blockers you may have, set the specific zoom level when you visit the site. Maybe you want things a little bit larger because on that particular site things seem to be a little bit smaller, or maybe you want them to be a little bit bigger, whatever it may be the case. And then of course you have this autoplay video, which you can have just mute the sound, stop the videos completely, or just go ahead and let them play. Again, configurable on a per site basis. Those aren't the only options though. Inside of system preferences under website, you have all these options for things that you can enable and disable per site, like reader, content blockers, autoplay, page zoom, camera, microphones, location, and notifications. You can view many of the sites that you visited in here. You can choose them. First, the category on the left hand side, so maybe notifications. Obviously, I want iDownload blog to be able to send me notifications, but maybe I don't want to allow any other websites at all to have access to my camera. Super paranoid about it, and I want to go in and turn those off completely. And I can even set the universal for any new websites that I visit to, again, be completely denied. Don't even ask me about it. Again, we have autoplay, but let's take a look at autoplay. It's really cool. It's worked on every site that I've gone to, but here we have a video. It's starting to autoplay. I just refresh the page and the video starts to play, and I didn't even touch it. Well, now I'm going to go up into those site-specific settings that we looked at in the past. It'll pop up that little window along the top where I can choose all those different things. You can see it automatically has denied that camera permission, but I can turn on or off the microphone, location, and even that autoplay. So when I turn off never autoplay, turn on never autoplay. Now when I refresh the page, that video no longer plays until I decide it. So whether it's an ad or something, like I hate when I visit a new site and it's like, hey, let's play a video for you. Completely irrelevant to what you're looking at, but it starts to play. It is annoying, but that has been fixed, and now we'll no longer do that if it's up to you inside of macOS High Sierra. Messages has a few new features. For instance, it'll store all of your messages in iCloud now, which is really handy because whenever you would set up a new device or anything like that, you know that all your messages are gone and only your new ones would show up. But now they will all be stored there going forward. Unfortunately, it looks like they removed that in the current betas, but that will be coming in a future version of iOS 11 and macOS High Sierra. Another change to the notifications. Now when a notification comes in, you have the option to mark as read as well as reply, which is really handy because if you don't want to actually go in there and respond to the message, you have nothing to say, but it wouldn't mark it as read until you actually clicked into it. Now you can do that right from the notification. Inside of the Notes app, there are several new things. There's again a little welcome screen to the beginning. Most of these are features that we've seen in the past, but there are definitely some notable ones in macOS High Sierra. We can now add tables to notes. So you can see I have a few notes inside of here. I have my one for important pin codes, some very important ideas for children's book, and I have this characters here. I kind of want to make it do a chart or a graph or a table so that I can kind of see the characters in different plot points or different aspects of those characters. So, okay, we have a squirrel whose name is Roger, and I still want to give even more information. By default, it gives you a 2x2 table. You can drag those grids around, whether it's the rows or the columns. But if you right click on the actual little dots themselves above the column or on the row, you are able to actually add additional rows and additional columns, basically like you would in many other Excel or numbers types programs. But I can add additional characteristics of my character here and just keep adding those in. Makes it super easy to add table type data to a note. While we still have these new features this year, the big updates to notes were definitely last year. These feel like they're kind of picking up the pieces of things that they should have included last year, but maybe never got around to. So tables are the first big feature that's changed. We can also now pin notes, so something that's most important. So my passwords here, maybe I want to pin this to the top. I can right click and hit pin, or using 2 fingers, I can swipe across any note and pin it as well. I'll get a little orange flag. Then there's also for searching. Whenever you maybe needed to search for something, it would find the notes, but it wouldn't show you where in the note that search term was. Now if I search for squirrel, you can see here it's in my children book ideas, and there is squirrel in the text. It highlights it for you so you know where in the text, where contextually that phrase is. Inside of the Mail app, one of the biggest changes for me at least is the new savings of up to 35% of space, which is quite a lot of space that you can save from your mail. You also have this new split view mode, which is really handy. I love working those full screen apps. Super handy because now you can compose on one half of your screen, view your inbox, view other messages at the same time. I just really love this, being able to look for other information through other emails while composing one on the right hand side. Okay guys, here was a doozy. The Photos app definitely got the biggest overhaul in all of OS X, so let's go ahead and check this out. Lots of new features here. Starting off with the quick and easy, it is a whole lot more responsive than it has been in the past. iPhoto and Photos used to be kind of slow as you're working with them. Now it's definitely much more refined and a lot quicker to work through. It also supports the new HEIF, which is the high efficiency image format, which saves a whole bunch of space while still being great for storing all your photos. We also now have support for GIFs inside of Photos. So if I have a random GIF here, dragged into Photos, I can easily import it and I can easily view it inside of Photos. Yeah, that's definitely worth it right there. Okay, back to the Photos app. If you are a photographer, you often maybe import photos into Photos. Well, the problem was the import view would only show you your last import. Really annoying because I wouldn't see other imports that I had, especially if it put them someplace else in my timeline. Well, now in the new version of Photos, you can actually view all of your imports chronologically as when you pulled them in. Very, very handy, but that is just one change to this whole new sidebar here on the left. It is now persistent and has a bunch of new categories. What's really handy is these down here where you can view by different photo types that you've taken, whether it's selfies or portraits or live photos, those depth effects. I guess that's the same as the portrait mode, but long exposure, panorama, slow-mo, burst, screenshots, all of the usual. Really handy to have all those broken out, and you can easily sort and filter through your photos when you can find what you're looking for. On the actual Photos section, I guess you would call it, we have 4 new tabs across the top, which is Photos, Memories, Collections, and Years. Just another way to sort through all your photos on a broad scale before getting very granular. If we jump into one of the specific photos here, let's choose one of these group shots that we just took. If you jump into that, you'll notice some very new changes to the toolbar along the top when you're viewing a photo. We have a new quick access button for auto enhance, so no longer do you have to hit edit first and then go into it. It's really easy just to click auto enhance right from the toolbar if you're someone who uses that quite often, which I know a lot of people are. Other than that, the details button has been removed. The edit icon used to be some sliders, which now just says edit. The live designator moved from the right hand side of the actual photo, that's not in the toolbar, but it was on the photo itself, has moved over to the left hand side. Another small change there. If we jump back to all of our photos once more, they've made a lot of improvements to searching, organizing, and navigating through photos. Search is more powerful than it ever has in the past. There's a new list of filters here, so I can search just by the favorited ones or edited ones or videos, anything like that. Super handy again. Once I start selecting photos, maybe I want to choose a couple of them down here, it'll actually highlight them and show how many photos I have selected up here in the top. And now I can bulk rotate images. I can now do all of these at the same time. Really, really useful if you've had a lot of photos that needed rotated. I can also favorite multiple photos at the same time. Other than that, just really easy to take multiple photos, move them around, drop them into albums, kick them out of here and throw them onto your desktop or however you need to share them. So let's say we really like this group photo here. Let's go in and look at all the new editing options and changes here in this version of Photos. Right off the bat, it's going to look a little bit different than it has in the past. We now have several new options along the top as well as in our sidebar, which has been cleaned up, made a little bit more easier to navigate between. On top, we obviously have this adjusting panel. Then we've got filters. There are several new professional filters in here, like Vivid, Dramatic Warm, Dramatic Cool, Vivid Warm, Mono, Silver Tone, and Noir. And then lastly, that last tab is Crop, which just does exactly what you think it does. It also helps you level the photo, if maybe it's not exactly level when you took it. There is also a feature that I was missing from Aperture, which is this little button in the top left-hand corner, allowing you to view the original as well as your edits and compare the two quickly. Just hold it down, you see the original, let go, you see the edits. We can also now edit live photos. Really handy. I can choose the keyframe for that live photo. I can turn off the audio. I can turn off live photo completely. I can also choose the endpoints for the live photo, where it begins and ends, or I could loop it, turn it into a long exposure, or bounce it. They're pretty self-explanatory what they do, and you can see more in our full video on everything you can do in Photos in macOS High Sierra. Amongst other small changes here amongst all the editing options, we have a new selective color option for adjusting. You can actually choose a specific color using the color picker and adjust just that color without affecting the rest of the image. So I can choose the green right here. I can choose the green and change all that green in the image. This is an Irishy photo, so I want to pump up that green. You can make it pull it more towards the right and bring all of the green out in this image. This is a very cool tool. I'd love to choose like a sky or something and bring that up a little bit. We also have curves, so if you're more on the professional side of things, you don't want to jump it into a full third-party application, but you want to get in there, make some more professional adjustments without having to do anything crazy with other apps and everything. This is really nice. I love adjusting the curves when I need to, so I'm glad this is built in and I don't have to jump over to Photoshop or Affinity Photo to get this done. There's also been some finer tweaking of contrast, brightness, and color. Now, as I mentioned, if you're doing something more extreme, you're doing more photo editing than the Photos app can handle, you often want to move it to a third-party application, whether it's Photoshop, Affinity Photo, or Pixelmator, something like that. Well, now in High Sierra, you can do just that. If they support this, of course, they have to support it from the application side of things, but you'll be able to actually go to that share sheet, open it in a third-party application, completely edit the photo there, and everything gets saved back to the Photos app. Completely non-destructive. You'll still have the original, but it is so nice to be able to not have to find a way to open it in that other app. It just opens it right here from Photos and saves everything back to Photos, keeping everything in one place. You can also use third-party printing apps as well. Inside of Memories, we have now 2 tabs at the top for all memories and your favorite memories. You have new options when you're selecting different memories on the list. So if I go down here to Pataskala or On This Day, these really don't have a lot of meaning. They're just random photo shots that I had taken for work. So I don't really need these. I can actually now right click and block this memory based on certain criteria, whether it's the date or the place. So in this case, it's the place, and I can choose place as my option, and anything from that location will be blocked from a memory. It's really easy to play memory just by right clicking and hit play memory. You can also right click and hit get info, and it'll bring you all that info on that memory, including random things like the size of the memory. So if it's one that contains a lot of videos or just a whole lot of photos, all that will show up here. It's kind of cool. I like being able to see, oh, what makes this up? Where do those photos come from? How much storage space is this taking? Lots of really neat info like that. We also have more than a dozen new memory types in macOS High Sierra. This is really neat. I love these memory types. They'll automatically kind of pick things out and then put them into different types of memories and automatically just present them to you almost every single day. So random stuff like babies and pets, outdoor activities and performances, wedding, birthdays, sports, all of this, it'll automatically be able to identify and sort into those memories. It's really neat. You can search things, sunsets, you can find sunsets for me. On the water was actually already a memory. It pulled all the different photos of us out on the water in different locations through different time ranges from 2011 to 2016, put it all together. Same thing for wedding. It was able to identify all the weddings that we had gone to and put all those together into one album of all of the weddings that we've attended or shot photos for. I am still a fan of memories. I think they're really cool and they're getting a lot better in High Sierra and iOS 11, and I can't wait to see more of them as iOS 11 and Photos start to show them to me. People got a few nice improvements over what we had in the last generation. Thumbnails are much bigger, making it really easy to tell who is in a photo. They've overall increased the accuracy of identifying who is in photos and putting them into the correct groupings. And now all this will save over iCloud, so any of your device you're on will all stay in sync. We have new family options for iCloud storage. You don't have to just have your own. We can also now share files with other people straight from iCloud itself. It's really handy. Basically find a file you want, and as long as it's stored inside of iCloud Drive, you can just share that file. Like right click, hit share, and then send somebody a link. Or using compatible third-party applications, they can edit the photo or document or whatever it might be directly in iCloud and keep everyone up to date. Unfortunately, at this point in time, that was not available for us to test, but it will definitely be there by the time High Sierra ships. Power users can rejoice. Spotlight has gained a couple new functionalities, including the ability to look up flights. Just put in your flight number, you can see a little map of where it goes, departing time, whether it's on time, flight statuses, call numbers, all of that really handy. We can also now ask longer questions inside of Spotlight, so the character limit has essentially increased, and you can get suggestions and everything else straight from Spotlight. And if you're searching up something, if it's relevant, they can present multiple Wikipedia entries for the question that you're asking. Finder was reorganized just a little bit here in High Sierra, so notably on the left, the default favorites has been changed. Of course, you can add whatever you want here, go for it, but it has changed a little bit. And the toolbar at the top, which again is customizable, has changed from the default. Spacing has been changed, icons have been shifted around a little bit. It's into kind of two groupings based on the layout and other functionalities there, but just small changes that there are. We also have the ability now to clean up. So if I go to an actual folder that has more than one thing in it, because I can't really clean up one thing that's already organized, but now go to that gear, that task icon, I have the option to clean up or to clean up by a specific thing. We now have the ability as well for a shared clipboard. Previously, shared clipboard worked between your Mac and your iOS devices. Now it'll work between your Mac and your other Macs. So if you have like a laptop and a desktop, it'll jump between them. If you are someone who watches videos a lot on your computer, which who doesn't, now the touch bar on the newer touch-enabled MacBook Pros, touch bar-enabled MacBook Pros, when you're watching that video, there's a new option to jump into picture-in-picture. Just tap that button, video jumps right out, tapped again, and goes right back in. The Apple menu, located always in that top left-hand corner, we have a new option above logging out, which is lock screen. So if you don't have it set up on a hot corner or a keystroke, you can just tap on lock screen from the Apple menu. Another quick, easy way to get to it if you don't have something else that you prefer already set up. So many new changes to input and video capturing and stuff. We have bilingual English and Japanese input support. We've improved Japanese video captioning, and there's now added Hindi language for the system itself and SF Arabic for the system font. So many small changes for inputs and different languages inside of macOS High Sierra. Inside of disk utility, super small here, but the icon here on the right hand side has been moved. Info used to be here in the center with everything else, but now it's been moved alone on the right hand side. Obviously, we have the gorgeous new macOS High Sierra wallpaper. That's definitely new. We also have the ability to grab live photos from a FaceTime call. So maybe I'm letting my dog talk to my girlfriend's dogs, or my girlfriend is showing me this haircut that the groomer gave them that is way too short. If I wanted to take a photo, a live photo of that, I can simply click on that little dot in that bottom left-hand corner. Of course, it does have to be enabled for both people, and it'll send a notification to both people. So if you take a photo, it wants to let the other person know that you took a photo of that conversation. On the touch bar equipped MacBook Pros, we have two new icons, one for AirPlay and one for Night Shift. Both those are new features of the touch bar. Tapping on Night Shift literally just turns Night Shift on and off. And then the AirPlay button, when you tap on that, on the left-hand side of the touch bar, you will be presented with any AirPlay options that you may have, like an Apple TV. One of the biggest changes is probably apfs, or the Apple File System. Is the replacement to HSF Plus and debuted with iOS last year. It is built for SSDs with 64-bit architecture, and you can pretty much copy and find the file size of things almost instantly. Has many modern features built in, like built-in encryption, can take snapshots of your file system, which is great for backups. It can help save disk space because it's so much more efficient. Overall, it's faster and takes up less space. Siri also got quite a bit of an overhaul in iOS 11 and macOS Sierra, including all new icons in the touch bar, in the menu bar, as well as in the dock. She also has a new interface when you're actually invoking Siri to match iOS. Siri is also now basically a DJ and a music expert. You can make a playlist, play something mellow, read album notes, tell you about a song's album and artist. You can ask who's in a band or who plays this specific song. I found it really handy. I like asking when did this song actually come out? And to keep me up to date with actually the current members of a band, you can ask who's in a specific band, and she can actually find that information for you as well. Her voice also got quite a bit of an overhaul. Sounds a whole lot better than it has in the past, which if you've been paying any attention at all to, the iOS side of things, you probably already have heard this, but whether you're asking for some of these musical references or trying to ask a joke, it sounds really good. Here are just a couple sound clips of me asking some basic stuff, and you can hear the expression in her voice.
I don't think you'd understand a joke in my language. They're not so funny. Anyway.
And this one is even more expressive than that one was.
Let me think. Nope, can't think of one.
I just love that it sounds so much more expressive than it has in the past. Here is another useful tip. If you jump into the Apple menu, drop down over to accessibility, then scroll down this list until you find Siri. You actually have the option now to type to Siri. This is definitely an accessibility thing, but it's also just convenient because you don't have to worry about actually typing things to her if you don't want to actually hear you have to repeat stuff out loud in the middle of an office. But with that enabled, whenever you invoke Siri, whether it's through the keystroke or tapping on the icon, you can type in your query and she will respond to you. Here is one more sound clip.
I can't. I always forget the punchline.
So that is it. Wow, that is over 100 new features and changes coming to you in macOS High Sierra. And make sure you subscribe, give us a thumbs up.